ఆ బ్రహ్మే నిన్ను చేయడానికే తన ఆస్తి మొత్తాన్నే ఖర్చే పెట్టుంటాడే.
Tell us all about your upcoming tour in India.
But this is going to be the first time that I bring like one production to multiple cities in the country. And each of these cities is just like really special to me. Bangalore, I've never performed in before. I've done a few Carnatic concerts and some more kind of experimental things, but never anything that's like large scale. So I'm really excited to go there. Chennai is home, so it always feels like a homecoming. And Hyderabad is a city that has kind of embraced me as their own. So a different kind of a homecoming, if you may. I'm going to be in Bombay, but I can't talk about the specifics until they announce it.
We'll give people a hint. What's your favorite part of Bombay, Sid?
I really love South Bombay, so there's your hint.
It's so interesting, living in Colorado, born in Chennai, and you love South Bombay.
Oh yeah, I think what I gravitate towards, and you'll kind of find it in all these places that we just mentioned, is I love cities and places where there's been a preservation of some like remnants of the old world. And like take Colorado, for example, the mountains, which have been there like really old world, like forever. That's what really drew me to that city when I first visited like a couple years ago. San Francisco or Fremont specifically, where I grew up, is home. So that'll always be home. Chennai, I feel like like the tradition and the old world culture of that city is pulsing through the whole place when you're there. And South Bombay, really the architecture is what like grabbed me. Something about going there just made me feel very nostalgic.
What's the best part about returning to India?
It feels like coming back home. I think I was born in Chennai and we moved to the States when I was a year. Growing up, we'd come back to Chennai every summer. I grew up studying and learning Carnatic music from my mother, and she started me off when I was 3. Her father was also a musician, and we'd make these trips every summer, kind of like for 2 different purposes. One was to study Carnatic music, and then the other is the typical NRI come back to visit family and do the 2 months in India thing. And I loved doing that. I feel like it was very important for me in my formative years of like really kind of figuring out who I was. But not until 2016, when my career really kind of took off here in India, did I start spending like more substantial time in India, like around 6 months out of the year. And that's when I formed my own ecosystem in Chennai and like my own friends, and really came to form a relationship with the city and the country that felt like my own instead of through the lens of my parents. When I say lens, I think I'll take the shades off.
But those are cool shades.
Thank you.
I love them.
But then we can actually look at each other.
Yeah. Your mother was your first teacher, and you've trained in Carnatic music. Yes. Then you went to Berkeley. Then you jumped straight into playback. Yeah. You've sung in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. How many musicians are in this one body?
I realized early on that I have a whole bunch of music that I want to explore and understand and just discover. So it's one musician with infinite. The word I like to use a lot, and I use it a lot, is kaleidoscopic. And I feel like my whole experience as an artist, as a musician, has been this kind of really exploring and embracing the whole spectrum of who I am. So I feel like the source point is very much like one source point. Everything stems from the same place, which is this deep desire to want to understand the world, and being blessed to get to, I guess, understand it through the mechanism of music. And yeah, my foundation and my fountainhead is definitely Carnatic music. My mom started me off very young, and she's my guru to this day.
Because you sang Kesariya, people do call you the Arijit Singh of the South.
Yeah.
Do you take that as a compliment, or do you think it's an oversimplification of what you bring to the table as an artist and your language know-how, which is very profound?
The reason it started happening is because both of us have a very deep discography in our respective languages and industries and such. I don't take it as a compliment or an oversimplification. I just is like kind of like it is what it is. What I realized early on after my career really took off, and when I was younger, part of my pursuit was definitely like chasing stardom. There was definitely one kind of path within me that was far more spiritually charged pursuit with regards to music, and on the other side, there was definitely this yearning to want to be seen and celebrated. And then it actually happened, and it's been beautiful, and I'm very grateful for all the wonderful accolades and such. But one thing that also happens alongside this is like you kind of lose ownership of your name. I love Arijit's music, and I think he's a gem of a human being. So the comparisons back and forth, I have nothing bad to say about that.
In terms of Bollywood, is there a musician or an artist who you deeply respect or look up to?
In terms of vocalists, we were actually just talking about this, but Hariharan sir is like one of my favorites. And I think one of the reasons I love him so much is because, well, one, his voice is just gorgeous. But two, he was always an example for me growing up that you can sing Tamil songs, you can sing Hindi songs, you can sing ghazals, you can, like, the Colonial Cousins stuff that they released was very pivotal for me to listen to because it was a real coming together of different worlds. So I would say he's always been someone that I really look up to and deeply, deeply admire.
When you sang your version of Kesaria in Telugu and Tamil,
Yep.
I want to understand, you lend this very different texture to that song. When you sing something that's originally sung by somebody else, what do you keep sacred to that track and what do you let evolve organically?
To be honest with you, when I recorded that, I don't think I had heard the Hindi version yet. So I was just interacting with Preetham, and he was just giving me like his notes as if I was recording it for the first time. So there was not really this processing of an original version and then trying to, like, in my mind, not language-wise translate, but just in terms of, you know, aesthetic decisions and the way I sing it. It was really none of that. I just kind of approached it like it was an original, like, Telugu or Tamil song. And I'm glad I did that because I think I was able to. A lot of times, what does happen is if you're listening to another vocalist version of something, even if they've just like laid down a reference track for you or something like that, you tend to subconsciously take on some of their mannerisms when you're singing. If I had heard another version before doing that, I definitely wouldn't have come up with that kind of bit. So with that one, it felt like it was a completely fresh, clean slate that I recorded off of.
Maybe I should ask this question to Arijit then.
I don't know if he's heard
How
my
did
version.
you feel when you heard Sid's version of it? And, you know, what do you keep sacred and what do you let evolve?
But let's say, I think what I keep, it feel like I'm singing from the core of my spirit. You know, like there's always this moment when recording a song, and sometimes it happens early in the recording process, sometimes it happens later. If it happens later, it's quite nerve-wracking because you're waiting for that spark to come and it hasn't come yet. But there's a moment when you have a certain spark within yourself where you're like, oh, there's something in this, and I've given it some of myself or a lot of myself. So
And you do it very beautifully. It's very textured. It's very nuanced. There is so much of you in everything that you sing. That there is a musician, but there is also a lot of you.
Sure.
Like your growing up years, your time in Chennai, your Carnatic training, your international exposure. It all comes through in the music when I listen to it.
Thank you.
And I think that is what makes you stand apart from just another playback singer. There's a new generation of young Indian musicians like Rishabh Sharma who are deep diving into Indian classical roots, their own Indian classical roots or the training that they've done. Do you feel that this is an era of global Indian classical revivalists?
I think that classical music, Indian classical music specifically, has been integral to like Indian film and Indian arts and Indian music forever, like for a very long time. And we have various kind of examples of that through the years, whether that be Zakir ji, whether that be Ravi Shankar ji, and then like his impact on like the Beatles, or even looking at like Jeff Buckley and how he studied with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. There's been like various examples through the years. I think.
But the difference is that people like you, what you do is you view that traditional music through modern lens, through your international exposure, and then you bring something else to the table, which is a lot more digestible for people who do not have an understanding or know-how or training in Carnatic music.
Maybe now is like an era of that, for sure. Like I have a very big responsibility because Carnatic music, or any Indian classical form for that matter, is like a super, super deep form, very intricate, and there's like an infinite well to pull from. Oftentimes, when taking that and putting it in different environments, it can get diluted if one isn't extremely intentional about how one goes about doing it. So I think if artists can take whatever their roots are and take them into different spaces, contexts, push boundaries with them, and especially like kind of like marrying them with more contemporary kind of forms of music. I think like not using it as a marketing tool.
I don't think that the audience in India is forgiving enough to let somebody use it as a marketing tool and get away with it. They will cancel you before you can say sa.
It can happen in very subtle ways though. Yeah. Like I think there's like, well, yes, I agree. I think what's amazing about this country is that they're sticklers for that. And I am personally very happy about something like that because it forces an artist to be very careful about the steps one take. But I think you can still get over on some folks in a certain way. So it's like up to us to be extremely honest with ourselves. Because at the end of the day, like, there are so many ways that you can trick people a little bit here and there. Yeah. But if the artist is honest with oneself and we know that what we're an ambassador of and the kind of the weight and the magnitude of that, and also the scope and the opportunity to really make something that's profound, you know, then the music is in good hands. Okay. So I don't really speak for anyone else, but that's my constant hope and kind of that's what I seek and that's what I'm working towards.
And I think you do that beautifully because your training was so hardcore. It came from like ground up, and then
for sure,
all you had to do was just expand that.
Most definitely, yes, I agree. I think because the form, and I had like a very, my mom was super strict, you know, growing up. I didn't really, and I was definitely like not the hardworking kind of kid. I was trying to run around and do everything else but practice. But because I had parents who like stayed on me about practicing and just understanding the beauty of falling in love with the rigor of practice, then I have a foundation that allows me to sprout outwards in various ways while still being super true to what makes me who I am.
Okay, so we'll let you geek out for a moment. Which genre of international music do you think has any commonality with Carnatic music, especially in terms of phrasing, in terms of improvisation, in terms of its spiritual intensity?
I like these questions a lot. I would say with this one, there's a few forms that come to mind for different reasons. First is quite close to me, but gospel music, like black gospel music of the United States, for two main reasons. One, their vocal embellishments and the way that they do those embellishments reminds me and has always reminded me in a way in Carnatic music, we call it gamakas. So let's, give an example. Yeah, for sure. So let's say like I'm singing, like a fast one. It's like a gamaka. Is like, so you know what I mean? So they're aesthetically quite different and worlds apart from one another, but I feel like they serve a similar purpose, which ties me to the spiritual kind of like how charged they are and the intensity of it. I think Carnatic music allows, I mean, these gamakas and the way that you can vocalize, the way I've always viewed them is opportunities to really kind of put forth that intensity. And I think in gospel music and the music forms that have come from gospel, which is like blues, R&B, soul, it allows for this like a very similar thing where those moments are very spiritually charged, emotionally charged, what have you. I think that form of music, I think in terms of like the improvisational kind of backbone, jazz is, to me, at least in the spirit of it, very similar to Carnatic music in that so much of it is spontaneous, so much of it is improvised. It really requires a hyper presence and being very much in the moment and not judging oneself either by congratulating oneself or downplaying it.
What made you want to embrace regional music quite early on? I think you decided early on that this is what you want to do.
So my first song was in 2012, and that was Adiye, which is in Tamil. That was with Rahman sir. And I guess, the Tamil is my mother tongue, so I never really looked at it as a regional language as such, because for me, it was like my whole perspective and my understanding and comprehension of India was Tamil. And AR sir is my hero. He's been my hero since I was a kid. Since Roja onwards, all of his albums were like really the soundtrack to my life. And he's from Chennai, speaks Tamil. So he's been a hero of mine and someone I've looked up to forever. when he won the Oscar for Slumdog in 2010, I believe, he spoke in Tamil on stage, and that. Whereas before that, I think a lot of my life, I thought I'd be a Carnatic musician and a musician making English original language music. When I was at Berkeley, that's what I was kind of focusing on, was songwriting and making my own stuff. When I saw that happen, I was like, oh, that's a path that I think I should explore. So I sent him an email a few weeks after that, after the Oscars, and he responded and was like,
Like a cold email.
Yeah, cold email.
Like you didn't know A.R. Rahman, you just sent him a cold email.
Yeah, I had a friend that was interning with him, so I just pestered him for like weeks to give me his email address.
And A.R. Rahman replies to emails?
I mean, at that time, this was 2012, so it was over a decade
Lucky
ago.
you.
So, yeah, so he responded like 2 weeks later. I did not think he would respond. I was just, it was a moment of a combination of being inspired and also, I think my parents were starting to get on me about what I was going to do once I was out of college. And I, quite frankly, didn't know what I was going to do. So I was like, let's try this.
This was your wake up Sid moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it happened to work. So yeah, it wasn't like I planned to do regional or Tamil music first. It just so happened that my hero was Tamil and he was working on a film with Mani Ratnam sir at the time. And the stars all just kind of aligned. And then
Okay,
there's been no
right
looking
place,
back,
right time.
for sure.
Okay, so, every time I have met anyone who's ever worked with A.R. Rahman, because I'm a big fan, I always ask them, what is it like to work with him?
I mean, everyone says that he is a man of few words, and within whatever he says or like watching him work, there's a lot that you can take away from it. It just always feels like a spiritual practice being in the space with him because he's very centered, super curious, and hungry to kind of know more, create more, all things that I believe an artist should be. I feel like he epitomizes that. So working with him, yeah, it feels like you're in a spiritually charged space. His studio in Chennai, especially, there's just like an energy in that space that it truly feels like a divine kind of space. Working with him for me also, because I've idolized him for so much of my life, always comes with just a tad bit of nerves. And then you get to recording and it's like rapid fire. Once you get going, it's a super, not like fast in terms of the duration of time, but there's a constant back and forth. He has ideas in real time. And those have been like some of the most, there's been other times where I've gotten to just like jam with them a little bit if like there's just like extra time after a session or something. And each of these experiences are one, they've really guided me along my path as a musician, and fed me with so many more questions in terms of just seeking more and more.
I think the similarity for me between the kind of work that you do and what he has done in the past is, and that's a big comparison to make, but I feel like the moment for me is the first onset of monsoon. There's a lot of freshness to what he does. There's a lot of freshness to what you do.
Oh, I appreciate
and that those two things come to my mind when I listen to music independently. You mentioned a lot of spirituality, spiritual intensity in music. You said that you're spiritual yourself. And you also said earlier in this interview that fame is something that you always wanted to pursue. How did both these worlds come together for you?
I think the kind of like the spiritual kind of core and that that path has been there from the beginning. I obviously when I was younger, it was like subconsciously understood, but I knew quite early on that there was like a gift that was given to me. And I knew that just by way of like, my mom would have me performing in a bunch of places, or I'd always want to perform, whether that was like on stage or when there'd be people over at the house.
Is that a normal thing for South Indian kids to do a performance for their relatives? Did you have to do that?
I always wanted to do it.
Okay.
Like I would like, my first time on stage was when I was 3, and I wasn't supposed to be singing on stage that time, but my sister, I have an older sister who's an incredible academic and dancer, and she also sang growing up. So her and some of my mom's other students were going to be performing, and I was like, no, I want to as well, and I insisted. And I think my parents put me on stage thinking I'd get scared, but I fell in love with it like immediately. So it is a thing that like kids, especially kids I think that grow up in the U.S., their parents have them singing everywhere and anywhere they can if that's what they do, or if they dance, do that, whatever. For me, I just happen to love it. I think, and that was definitely a combination of understanding in those moments. You could tell when there'd be like a molecular shift in the way someone felt, whether they'd start tearing up or whatever. And that feeling of knowing that I could do that to someone or impact them in that way was very, very important to me growing up, just to know that, this is more than just getting attention.
And then you wanted to do more of that and more of that, and that's what led you here.
For sure. And in parallel, there was also the feeling of, I like the attention, and that. So it was always these two things happening kind of like at once in parallel of these pursuits that felt like they were both kind of grounded in my pursuit of music, but for two very different reasons. And it took me getting famous to really understand what came with celebrity, and the fact that, yes, it's nice, but there's also other sides to it that are not as fun. And then to really wrestle my ego and understand and like what and who I am as a musician, and falling back in love with the core of why I do it, which is, again, spiritual, very human, like the love of connecting with human beings through music and so on.
Okay, that's well said. I want to talk to you a little bit about Coachella.
Yeah.
You performed in 2024.
Yes.
Okay, this was, I think, a year after Diljit Dosanjh performed.
Correct.
Now, both of you all bring very different kinds of Indias on a global stage.
Yeah.
Him, Punjabi, you, South Indian songs. What do you think this moment says about Indian language music being on the global stage right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing it tells me is that India is such a diverse country. Even within each state, there's like various subcultures and dialects of these language. And then with that, you have so many different musical and cultural cues that make the artistic output of this country so special and, again, so kaleidoscopic. And the fact that he could do what he did, and then the next year I did what I did, it felt like, very different forms of expression, if you may.
And still Indian.
Very much so. And I think that's what makes this country so beautiful, is the fact that it's such a varied experience. There's so many different perspectives. And that was just, I guess, like that encapsulated that. I think it also just goes to show that music that comes from here, I think in this next kind of like era of what's happening globally musically, a lot of global music will be influenced by music from India. And I think what's so exciting about that is because we have so much to say and such, again, a diversity of perspective. It's really exciting it'll be very exciting to see how those branches grow outward into the world.
So does this movement around Carnatic music, especially on an international platform, feel bigger than just your music?
Oh, most definitely. I think, even me like doing the NPR Tiny Desk and then doing Coachella and putting my album out back in 2024, was it? 2023 rather. I've seen like a bunch of younger artists be like almost like born out of that. And what I mean by that, I think, is it took me a while to get to a place to be able to bring my worlds together and to take Carnatic music and really explore and experiment, see how it could exist in these different contexts, and to develop the confidence and a strong sense of self to be able to do that without fear or self-judgment, and that Coachella moment was what really kind of clarified it for me, because when that happened, like 99% of the audience was definitely not Indian. Wow. They probably didn't know Tamil. They definitely didn't know what Tirpugar is, which is the kind of composition that I performed. But it was just like silence settled in the audience once I started that last piece. And so going back and watching that before I posted the clip up, I was like, okay, I think like I've talked about this for so much of my life, of like taking this music that I'm so proud of and that's so core to who I am, and throwing it out into the world, but then actually doing it and seeing the impact that it had was magical. Since then, I've seen younger artists kind of like come into their own in that way, whichever, with whatever form they feel is close to them. And yeah, I think I'm an ambassador for where I come from, and I think it's definitely far, 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 far greater than just me as an individual.
You've often spoken about how there is some kind of resonance with God when you're like performing. You've called yourself a medium where when you're channeling music. So do you think, how do you describe yourself? Are you a performer? Are you a Carnatic rock star? Are you just a conduit? Who are you?
Yeah, I think like I feel like in my greatest moments, I feel like a vessel, who's just like empty and open to channel whatever energy is coming through me. I don't like titles very much because I think just for me personally, I have so much to say. I have so many different ways I want to say it. And I feel like every single day I wake up feeling like I've only just scratched the surface of what's within me and how I can express that outward. So I guess I'm all the things that you said.
Carnatic rock star, performer, and a conduit.
And yeah,
everything.
I think all those things, and then a million other things as well, And I'm exploring every day. And the term that we use a lot, and it's also the term that that I named my company after, is the term is called the hybridist, and it's not an actual word; it's one that we created. But I think it encapsulates the fact that I want to be able to shapeshift and really kind of occupy all the different spaces that I think I can occupy and just continue exploring. Because I'm a student. That's what I am. I think all the things that you mentioned.
From like all of that to like, I'm a student. Okay.
I think that's what it is. Because I think that also like allows me to be a rock star, allows me to sit down and sing a 3-hour just Carnatic concert, just like traditional Carnatic concert. It allows me to go to the jazz club and experiment with, different genres. It allows for everything. And I think that's what, that's the term I feel most closely tied to.
And that's so important for any artist to have that sort of flexibility and adaptability and
Sure.
playfulness.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think playfulness and curiosity is at the very core.
Which is what you should have as a student of anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so you often close your eyes when you're singing. Mm-hmm. Are you in some sort of a trance? Is this you tuning out the world, or this is just Carnatic music?
I like to not necessarily tune out the world, but really just tune into myself in those moments, and not, I think I might have mentioned it before, but a lot of the music I do requires just like hyper presence and just being very, very in the moment. And that's whether I'm performing, when I'm composing, whatever, or recording, whatever it may be. And I find that when I do close my eyes, actually nowadays, sometimes I start my shows off with the shades on and I still have my eyes closed underneath the shades, but it just feels like it allows me to go inward for the first, like, let's say 20, 30 minutes or whatever of a show or a performance, where I can live within myself, really kind of find my center, find the calm, and just tap in to a certain energy. And then once I've kind of like caught that current and built a little bit of momentum with it, it allows me to just kind of like boundlessly go from there.
Did you have your eyes closed when you came here before you took the shades off?
No. I was looking at you, I promise.
Okay, so I've got my interview, but I have a bunch of questions that I want to ask you, but you need to give me quicker, shorter answers for that. Yeah?
I'll try.
Okay. Show me the last song that you played on your Spotify.
It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
How
soundtrack.
Sweet.
And can I play a little bit? Because it's so good.
Yeah, you can.
It's just like a loop, but it's like the prettiest music ever. So I listen to like this a lot when I'm on not even just on a flight, just around. And it allows me to kind of like, non-lyrical music sometimes lets me kind of just like set my mind.
What's your go-to snack during a late night recording session?
Chocolate chip cookies.
If you could teleport to any concert in history, where would you be?
Well, that's so hard. That's really difficult. Okay, one would be, there's this YouTube recording of Miles Davis, I forget who, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, and I forget who else. And just like these incredible jazz musicians in Switzerland. I want to say it's from like sometime in the 50s or 60s maybe. Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock would be up there. Bade Ghulam Ali Saab, any concert that he performed at, I would have loved to have seen that. That's already 3.
What's a non-musical hobby that you have?
I like to like do these like abstract sketches that are just like based on line art. So yeah.
Most common place to find inspiration.
The most, I mean, like again, like it happens at any point in time. I'll be like in a car, and it hits. So I don't know if there's like a random place. The airplane's a place that happens a lot, and I'll have to quietly just like record a voice note of a melody so as to not like disturb the people around me. But that, like the
Maybe
airplane.
just get a free concert. That's not disturbing anyone. That's a free
I don't know.
concert.
People are really trying to hear the next Sid Sriram tune when they're just trying to catch up on some sleep.
Okay, my last question. If your voice was an ice cream flavor, which one would it be?
Rocky Road, because it's like tastes like the chocolatiness of it is good, and then you get little treats of marshmallows in between.
I was gonna say dark chocolate and sea salt. Like it's very unexpected, like texture with sea salt, but like intense and deep and all of
Nice.
that.
I guess there's like a kind of similarity between that one and mine, except sea salt is a little bit better than marshmallows.
And
so
maybe
we can
I
go-
just like chocolate and sea salt better than Rocky Road. So on that note, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure having you and chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now you cannot leave before you sing something for us.
Sure. పేదాలో ఒక చిన్ని ప్రశ్నే ఉంది నీకై క్షణాలో పడిపోని మనసేయది